You've seen the latest video on my channel where I show you how to remove the sat-nav preparation that came with my BMW. Okay, it's a pretty standard 5-minute job. Watch that video if you want to find out how to remove it. What I've been using with the sat-nav preparation is just a cheap generic £15–20 generic cradle that sits on the sat-nav preparation and charges your phone, holds your phone in here and charges your phone as well. Doesn't use the wonder wheel or the magic wheel to control your phone. It just helps to charge your phone whilst it's in that bracket. And so my iPhone's camera has stopped working as a result of the long-term use that I've had using it on my motorbike. So I've decided to move away from using my new phone on my motorbike, and I've decided reluctantly, very reluctantly, because I do like the flexibility of using my phone and the navigation apps that you can get. They're all pretty good now on the apps that you can get, and so I'm a little bit reluctant to move to it, but I'd rather use a device that is meant to be on my motorbike and is purpose built to be on my motorbike, hence a sat-nav device, versus using my phone as a navigation device. And so what I'm going to be showing you today is I've bought my Garmin XT, so that's the sat-nav of choice that I've gone with. I never bought the BMW sat-nav, the Nav 5 or the Nav 6, just seen, A, they're well overpriced for what they are, 2, they're so unreliable, and I see more reports about the Nav 6 being more unreliable, and I don't see BMW updating them or bringing them out or bringing out new ones, and so I've stayed away from the Nav 5 and Nav 5 and Nav 6. They're just too much hassle, and they're way overpriced, so I'm not paying BMW that amount of money for something that's so unreliable. I've spoke to my local BMW dealer asking them how can I power up my sat-nav when the bike switches on, and essentially you need to buy this device, and this is just a replacement plug that you connect to the cabling of the XT, and you plug that into where the sat-nav preparation was unplugged, and it'll power your sat-nav as it used to on the sat-nav preparation. So it's a switched power on and off. And so I'll put some information in the link in the description down below. I'll put a link to this as well, so that you no need to look it up. You just use the link in the description below as well. Now, the other thing that I need to show you is, because I've removed the BMW sat-nav prep, is how am I going to mount my sat-nav now that the bar on the bike is now empty. What I have got is a mount from Touratech. You see that? So let's have a look inside, show you what the mount looks like. This is a lockable, secure device. So I wanted a mount that I could lock my sat-nav device into, not overnight when I'm tucked away in bed and the bike is outside, but something that I could just leave in the lockable mount and go off for 5 or 10 minutes or half an hour, have a coffee or a bite to eat whilst I'm out on the road. And so here it is. This is the device here. And also the profile of this as well. So when there's a clamp that goes on the back here, and so when that is connected to the crossbar, it's not going to protrude too much. By using there is a mount that you can use, and I'll put a link in the description. There is a mount that you can use for the Garmin XT to use with your existing nav preparation. You can't control your Garmin XT from the wonder wheel with it, but it is a mount that you can leave your sat-nav preparation on. You connect the mount on here, and then the XT connects to that. But for me, what I was worried about is that the profile of that with the mount, with the XT on it, it's going to be sitting quite far forward off the crossbar, and I didn't want that. So I've taken that off, and I've got this device instead. So it's lockable. There's the key, the barrel lock there, and so so these open, and then you put the device in or connect it to the power mount for the device, and then once it's in, you simply push those two sides locked, and then you use the key to lock it, and to unlock it, then obviously use your key and then just push up from underneath. There's just a bar here. Just use that to unlock it, and it is a cracking mount. So I'm going to show you how to mount this. This all interconnects with the Garmin power supply and the mount which connects to the front of the mount. And so yeah, looking forward to showing you how to mount this and how to mount the XT and how to power it up from your switched supply on your bike. So in the Garmin box you do get some RAM mount goodies and a cigarette lighter charger. You don't need any of that. All you need is the power cable out of the box, as well as your nav mount, so where the actual mount clicks into. So in the Garmin box you do get some RAM mount goodies and a cigarette lighter charger. You don't need any of that. All you need is the power cable out of the box, as well as your nav mount, so where the actual mount clicks into. So let's have a look at what's in the cable box first, or the cable bag first of all. You've got a couple of ring crimp connectors. You don't need those. You get a screwdriver. Okay, just get that screwdriver, and that is to put your power connector at the end of your cable. So that end, okay, that will screw in to the bracket on here. And there's a couple of small, very, very small screws in there, so do not lose them. And you will of course need to connect this up first of all. So in here, this is a connector. There's the information for this is down in the description below. I'll supply all the information there. But this essentially, this end plugs into where your where your nav preparation unplugged from, and you have 3 wires on here numbered 1 to 3. In speaking to BMW, they've told me that the number 1 cable goes to the neutral or the black wire, and the 3 goes to the live wire, okay, or the red wire. The number 2 wire on here, the number 2 on here is null and void. You don't need to use that. So trim these down however you want to. Connect it to the power supply cable using your butt connectors. So that's the first job to do, so let's get that done. I've got my crimping tool here, and I'm not going to keep all of this wire here. I'm going to cut this down to about here. You never know when you might need some spare, but yes, I'm just going to get rid of that end. Right, so I'm ready now to connect the number 1 on here to the neutral, and then the number 3 to the live. So there we have the connectors done. So I've got the number 3 wire from the yellow cable end going to the live, the red cable, and I've got the number 1 going to the black, the neutral. And I've obviously had the right color coordinated butt ends. The first thing that you're going to need to do now that you've connected your switch power end is to connect the other end of the cable to the mount. Okay, so the flush side at the back is where the cable goes into. Now the cable goes through the hole here, and then you push that through, and then as it goes through you just push that through and then pull it down. Okay, so it sits flush in there like that, and it's flush at the front here, and then just at the very front, or just at the very top in the rear end, there's a tiny screw hole in there, and that is where you put one of the screws to secure the power connector into the bracket. And there's a tiny screw hole at the back. You have 2 tiny screws supplied, so do not lose them. So that goes in there, and that is now, so that sits nice and flush now. And then your sat nav device should just plug in now. Nice, and there it is sitting in there nice and flush, and then you've got the button at the top here to release it. So with that done and that's secured in now, what we need to do now is to attach this bracket, and it sits on the inside here of the device. Right, in order to connect the XT mount end to the bracket that's going to go on the bike, I first of all need to put the bracket on the bike. Now, in order for me to do that, I need to remove the windshield off the bike so that I can secure the bracket on. So I've just taken the windshield off, so let's show you now how to put the bracket on. So in order to mount this to the crossbar, the screws that you will be using are the two short stubby screws that come with the pack, and they've got a square end underneath the cap, and that is just to secure them in here and in here. So I've managed to get one bolt on. This is the other one going on, and once this is in and the nut is on, I will be able to start tightening these up to the correct specs. So what I'm going to do, tip that over, and I'm going to start tightening these up if I can. So before you tighten up, just make sure that the bracket is central on the crossbar. Right, before I tighten everything up, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the sat nav into the cradle. I'm going to put it into the cradle there, and then I'm going to look at it just to make sure that it's sitting central. Right, I'm happy where it's positioned there. What we need to do is now secure the XT mount with the power end onto the bracket. So in order to do that, you get the extra long bolts that come with the bracket, so they'll go in there. So the first one, 4 in each hole, 1 in each hole, 4 all together, and they go through the holes here. So that's the first one. Then you're going to need a spacer, and then a washer, another washer, and a nut. So washer goes on first, obviously. Then the nut. Now in order to do these up, the bolt has a 2.5 mil hex head, and the nut is a 6 mil nut. So 6 mil on the back, 6 mil socket on the back, holding the nut, 2.5 hex head on the front, and then we can just start to do that up. So I've plugged the power supply back in at the other end. All we need to do now is just to test it by mounting the sat nav into its cradle and locking the bracket. So that is the device now locked in. The release mechanism at the back, you can't actually push down to either release the sat nav from its cradle, and of course with the locking mechanism you won't be able to unlock it like that either, so that's nicely secured in there. So let's just power on the bike and make sure that there's power coming to the sat nav. There we go, sat nav on, all working, ready to go. So really happy with how this has worked out for me, very, very happy with it. All that's left for me to do now is put the windshield back on and route the cable down inside the bike and put it back where it was secured inside the fairing, just down here. So that is the sat nav ready and working. So that's the Touratech mount and the XT mounted onto the bike, and the power supply, or the switched power supply, connected to the Garmin XT. Now, I am no auto electrician by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a mechanic, so all the stuff that I do is from a very novice point of view. So give yourself a go at doing this if you're interested in doing it, because it's a very straightforward job to do, and helps build confidence about experimenting with your bike and getting used to doing things with your bike. And that is what my channel is all about, as well as showing you some of the places that I like to ride and sharing those routes with you as well. It's all about me getting to know about these fantastic machines and doing as much as I can myself. If you've got any questions about the installation today, do let me know in the description down below, or email me at billiesbikeadventures@gmail.com. But for now, thank you very much for watching indeed, and I will catch you again very soon.